Hi, Abraham. My question is, I have been a body worker and a massage therapist for 30 years, and I now have pain in my hands and arms and shoulders, and I want to know how I can do my work without feeling that pain. I thought it would go away on the cruise, but even after not working on people for 2 weeks, I still have that. And I know I'm in resistance to doing my work because otherwise it wouldn't have happened. But I want to transition into working more intuitively with people and do intuitive readings and using the Abraham principles. So I wanted to come here and specifically ask Abraham how to do that.
Well, a nice thing about your influence with others, we want to talk about what you're actually doing, why what you do is of value for someone else. Sometimes people who do what you do, or similar to what you do, see themselves as flowers of energy, and they summon energy on behalf of their client and flow the energy toward their client's affected area or area of need. And what we would encourage you to do instead, and we can feel that you understand what we're going to say, but the fact that there is evidence of resistance means you don't fully know it in the way that we are wanting you to. When you understand that the person that you are interacting with really doesn't need you at all, they have a condition that is causing them to ask in greater clarity than normal, even without words. Every cell in their body is requesting, and their contrasting experience is causing them to ask and to have asked. So out here in their future experience is a rendezvous point where they are on their way to alignment, and the law of attraction is lining you up with them because you are the catalyst to assist them in relaxing and allowing what the cells of their body are asking for to be achieved. So if your mindset is, well, here I am, I need to be the vortex that summons the energy and then asserts it or directs it toward them, you're sort of working cross current to the energy. But when you say, they are the summoner of the energy, and I am an assistant in helping them to relax and allow the energy that they are summoning, then you realize that your work is not so much about the physical work of manipulating them into the place of letting it in. It's more about the softer work of soothing them into a place of allowing. A soft touch from someone who expects improvement is the most healing experience that is available. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would start announcing that to everyone, that this is not going to be some deep massage. This is not going to be something where your tongue's hanging out when you're finished. This is going to be something that is going to be happening on an energy level as much as anything, but that there will be physical manipulation that will help them be in a more allowing place. A woman said to Esther one day, she held her hands out for Esther to see, and she said, I am a healer, and look what is happening to my hands. And her hands were literally burned. She had peeling skin on her hands. And she said, I'm helping a lot of people, but look what's happening to me in the process. And we said to this woman, the same healing energy that you are directing toward others should always be flowing through you. In other words, of all of the people on the planet, your body, if you are in alignment with the idea of what you're doing for others, is in the first position of receiving the well-being that you are summoning, unless you're trying too hard or unless you are in a place of resistance while you are summoning. Now, it is important any time that you are working on behalf of someone else, in an environment like this, where Esther is opening her vortex and allowing those like you to summon through her, it's more important than ever that Esther be in a place of allowing, because you're going to summon the energy whether she's ready for it or not. In other words, this cruise has been in alignment. This vortex has been opened. This juncture in time has been pre-paved by all of you. And so Esther knows that her primary work is to get into the place where she can allow the energy to flow unhindered, unaffected, non-resisted. And not only is it better for what is then allowed to flow through, but if she doesn't do it, her physical body sort of takes a beating. Mm-hmm. Esther noticed in the early days of allowing Abraham to flow through her that it was a very tiring experience. And it took some time before she was able to hear us say that it was her own level of resistance that was causing that. Now, you began there. In other words, you've been listening to us and others long enough and through your own experience to know that that's how resistance plays out. It plays out in the form of fatigue or in the form of negative emotion or even in the form of physical sensation. But the thing that is hindering you more than all other factors that you are considering put together is that we can feel there is some self-judgment about some inappropriateness of your behavior that is resulting in this. And we hear this from so many of you in many examples where you're simply not where you want to be, and then there's this self-condemnation that I of all people should know better than this. In other words, and Esther just laughs and says, we don't live it, we just teach it. In other words, she lets herself off the hook by understanding that it's not her job to be perfect for you. And she works hard every day to make sure you understand that, you see. Yeah. And it's not your job to be perfect for anyone either, but you do, for your own sake, want to be in the best possible place that you can be in. And so sometimes it's like anything else. When you're doing too much or when you don't have enough time to do some of the other things that you want, there are a lot of factors that cause resistance that are totally unrelated to your work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have I done irreparable harm to my arms? That's kind of my fear.
No.
Okay.
For all of these reasons, we give this to you specifically and directly. You can return to your full functioning feeling of well-being, absolutely. And also we want to say to you that even if you had gone further before you made the decision to release the resistance, you still could bring yourself back into alignment. We want you to realize that this will help you a great deal, so hear this. This is the most important thing that we'll say to you. We don't feel that much resistance within you. We do not feel resistance equivalent to your discomfort. Now, that may sound odd. So how can that be? How can she be living something that feels worse than the resistance that is present indicates or would create? And we say, if you were knowing what you are knowing now and feeling like you predominantly feel now, this could not have gotten started. In other words, if you could wipe the slate clean, who you are now would not recreate that. But who you are now and how you feel about it is enough to keep it perpetuated only because you're now observing what is. And that's the tricky thing. We like to talk about creation that is pre-manifestation and creation that is post-manifestation. And what we mean by that is a whole lot easier to maintain the well-being of your body when it doesn't hurt than to make it feel better when it does hurt. Because when you have physical discomfort, it gets your attention. We were talking about the woman who was not seeing as clearly as she wanted to see. And it's not easy to look out through a vessel that does not feel good and activate something that feels good, but it can be done. So here's what we encourage. We encourage you to recognize that you don't always feel the same way. Sometimes you feel better than others. And when you are feeling not necessarily wonderful, but on the better end of it, acknowledge how good you feel. In other words, look for every opportunity to acknowledge that you are feeling good, so that you activate that part of it. Aside from that, there isn't anything for you to do about it physically or in terms of action. Everything else that you're wanting to do is really about preparing yourself for the time of your interaction. And the way we want you, if we were standing in your physical shoes, what we would do, we would acknowledge, I am not an asserter of energy. I am a vortex through which energy will flow in response to what is being requested by the cells of this body. And we would say to the person that you're interacting with, my work really is much easier than you might think, because you and your desire are doing most of the work. I'm a catalyst to help you relax. Now, what happens is, when you have you noticed that sometimes you're interacting with someone and it goes much easier for you? Sometimes you're interacting with someone and they have a much more positive effect than another. So now again, their feeling, how their body feels, their attitude about it, their vibrational stance is having an effect on yours. But as we were just talking earlier, it is not necessary for anybody that you are co-creating with ever to affect your vibration. In other words, just the fact you're working on their body and how they feel and their vibration need not affect your vibration unless you are aware of their vibration. You get a sense? In other words, as you focus upon what you're trying to fix, you focus in a way that causes resistance in your own body, and then it doesn't go well for you. Where if instead you trust that their body knows what to do, and you intuitively assist in that, and you don't hold any stakes. In other words, you don't hold yourself responsible. You don't try harder when you're working on somebody that's out of alignment. And that's the thing that we can feel that is tripping you up the most. You want so much for every single one of them to have the benefit that many of them have. And so this is true of so many of you who are teachers, uplifters, and healers, and chiropractors, and doctors. In other words, you take it so personally, and you take it as your personal responsibility to get them to where they want to be. And we want you to let yourselves off the hook by saying to you, you can't get them to some place that they're not ready to allow themselves to be. You are catalysts, yes. You are influencers, yes, but you are not healers. The only one who can heal is the one who is having the experience. In other words, only self-healing is the only thing that could happen. And so you could effectively or accurately call yourself an influencer of healing. You could call yourself an influencer of well-being. But when you get it turned around so that you realize that you're not thrusting it, you're not directing it, you're not making it happen, you are part of the encouraging and coaching them into letting it happen, then you start relaxing more. The stakes aren't so great. You start having a better time. You start feeling better. You start looking forward to them coming. You're not trying to cut back on your work. You begin realizing that it is life-giving to you. Imagine what you're in on. You're in on being the vortex that is allowing life to flow through. Your body will thrive as a result of your work, not be diminished as a result of your work. Sometimes people will say to Esther, oh, thank you for your sacrifice, and we know this must be very exhausting. And Esther says, I am having a wonderful experience. Imagine getting to open my vortex and experience all of this energy that you are summoning through. Esther is more alive, more invigorated, more benefited than anyone in the room, you see. And you can be too.